Man, I'll tell you. Do you think Trump really works at that McDonald's? Because I did yesterday.
I'm hearing that it was a photo op. I thought he actually picked up a new part-time job working at McDonald's, and the press was documenting his actual first shift.
No, it was all fake.
It's all fake?
Yeah, it was like a photo op. He doesn't really work. He doesn't have to punch in at all. They're not going to get a paycheck.
So that was all fake.
Even the customers were checked like for guns and stuff before they were allowed to do the drive-in.
So he doesn't really work at McDonald's now?
No, it's like that's all. What else is fake then?
Well, I don't know. I heard that the extremely muscular photo of Trump at the Pittsburgh Steelers game, Newsweek says is likely AI generated, and he doesn't actually play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, he
is on the team. I am pretty sure he is on the team. That was real.
They're pretty sure it's an AI generated image.
Newsweek's been full time, just remarkable.
Fact-checking internet memes. It's really incredible. But yeah, if you go and you find this picture, I can throw it in the chat, in the live chat too. Then they do feel that the image of him at the Pittsburgh Steelers game wearing the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform with huge bulging muscles and veins coming out of they think that might have been AI generated, actually.
Well, the ones of him on horses, with eagles flying over him about to do battle.
I thought rescuing the cats was true. He has been rescuing cats in Springfield, Ohio, right?
He gave them French fries.
Wrestling them away from the Haitian migrants, because I definitely thought
he gave them French fries yesterday, definitely. I think, but I was told that was a dangerous trope, so I'm not sure. I need everybody's help, if you don't mind.
Yeah?
I am doing a TikTok tonight. I'm doing TikTok. By the way, if you don't mind having Chinese spyware and being apparatchik for China and you're on TikTok, please do follow me. It's Thomas Wynn Shattuck, I think. Tom Shattuck.
It's something. He doesn't know what his
you'll
TikTok
see.
handle is.
But anyway, I'm really trying to build a bunch of followers, or whatever they are on TikTok. And I really want to get that going. I'll get some good information on how to make it work, and to promote the show as well.
Mm-hmm. What does yesterday's have?
Yesterday's is not that big. It wasn't that big last time I saw. I don't have my phone with me, but yesterday's was.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to look it up now.
It was in the 700s. The day before was 3,000. Although there were 2 yesterday. No. This morning was 700. Last night was McDonald's. That one's a few thousand.
Okay. And actually, it's interesting because the Trump campaign is on TikTok, and they have been posting the McDonald's videos, and they've racked up a combined, I think I read today, 75 million views on the videos that they've posted of Trump at
So it's very, I
McDonald's.
find it very interesting, Alice. TikTok is so much different behaviorally. First of all, behaviorally, it's very different. Hardly anybody goes at you. Hardly anybody objectifies you. There are some very cleavagey shots in there. Maybe just the competition is just way too fierce, because in TikTok you have 80 million.
All the Gen Zers that are actually
and
hot.
they're not cougar fans. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. They actually just listen to you. What a waste.
Can you imagine them wasting their time listening to what I'm saying? How ridiculous is that?
But you probably are for a lot of them. You're
I'm twice their
mom.
age. Yeah.
Which actually, there's a thing for that too, so that reminds me of the other thing about it is that it's not the discourse. There is some dissing of each other. They rarely diss us, and even when they go after each other, it's not as mean
as Twitter. Why are you?
Some dissing of each other. They rarely diss us. But even when they do, it is not as mean as Twitter. Twitter can be it's very interesting.
Maybe part of that is mostly the way that algorithm works is it's not engagement driven. Maybe it's showing people more stuff they like. On Twitter, there's such an incentive to post engagement bait because engagement drives monetization. Mm-hmm. And so people post like very controversial things on purpose because the angry replies make them money.
Well, I guess
But like on
yeah.
TikTok, I feel like it's a lot more like views driven. Like it's watching how long you're watching the videos, even if you don't engage. So it's more driven. Like people are seeing more of what they want to see and not stuff that makes them mad.
And that's tough too, because if people aren't there because they're psychos who want to keep you in their well, then like you have to have a good 60 seconds worth of stuff that people won't click away from. So. But we have a few that have done very well. And anyway, it's not. I'm not half-assing it. I'm really trying to make them good. So this is what I need. One last thing about TikTok is that the app gets tired. It gets tired.
What does that mean?
So if you're using what is essentially a big multi-track thing, eventually it gets exhausted and will grind to a halt. And essentially, all the features stop working.
Maybe it's your phone.
Oh, maybe it is. Who knows? All the features stop working. I mean, the app asks a lot from your phone. Certainly,
I could see that.
There's a lot of dragging and dropping and a lot of etc. And I've gotten more used to how that's done. It's very interesting. When in resizing photos, Alice, you sometimes have to use like brute force and really drag down with the iPhone. You wouldn't think. All this to say this. Today's TikTok is going to be on the screed you did last night about cucks.
Oh, good.
Right, and which was a good screed, I felt, and so I have sent myself the images I need to make sure I'm getting a lot of the proper cucks here. For this for my TikTok, because I need some pictures of these cucks. So. Let me tell you who I have. Oh, those are all just on my phone. Damn. Okay, here's my list of cucks. Obviously, Tim Walz. I got M. Hoff, regardless. The Ben Stiller did the thing with Cohen and M. Hoff as well, and whatever. Daniel Dale, right? Brian Stelter.
Yep.
Right? He seems cuckish. And Chris Hayes from MSNBC. He's the guy who looks like Maddow, right? So I need, guys, if you can think of other cucks, I want to add them, and not like
literally cuck,
right? And not like
just they have cuck energy.
Well, right, and not your buddy Kevin from in town who you're feuding with, and like I'm probably not going to do a lot of Connecticut people because people don't know who that is. But cuck energy. Well, yeah, that's what I'll call it. Some people just have cuck energy. Big cuck energy. Maybe that's what it'll be called. So that's it. A lot of people think I'm a cuck, by the way.
A lot of people think that, but I
don't have cuck energy. I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I definitely have. I would definitely. I think I'm attracted to my wife.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be into that.
No, Jesus. No.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, and you sleep with somebody who's good at it? No way, dude. No way. You'd be out of here.
Yeah, I think like when I sleep with you.
Yes. I
mean, like, I think that's our thing, mostly.
Yes, there's such a looks differential. How could I not? Just to think the value of this itself. You know, if I, like, rented you from a website, it would cost thousands a year.
True.
Right?
So true.
So, okay. What would you like to start with, Alice? I've done my
let's stay on this theme a little bit because I do want to talk a little bit more about, like, manliness energy. I happened upon this article that's actually, it's a couple weeks old, but I just happened to see it reposted by somebody today about, it's actually from the New York Times saying we can do better than positive masculinity. And it's essentially all about how even positive masculine role models like Tim Walz is actually bad because he's still having to, like, pretend to be manly even though he's nicer.
Yes.
The electorate is faced with a choice. The story goes between two models for masculinity, toxic versus positive. The model is not a radical departure. Positive masculinity still draws on all the old trappings and anxieties of traditional manliness, the same belief that there's such a thing as a real man, and the same fears of falling short. As its political standard bearer, Tim Walz is still required to constantly prove his masculine credentials. It is only by presenting as a man's man and a veteran who loads his speech with sports metaphors and gun references
Who wrote this?
Let's see, it says guest essay. Ruth Whipman,
Okay.
the author
All
of
you have to
Boy
say-
Mom, Reimagining Boyhood in the
Right.
Age of Impossible Masculinity.
All you had to do is say Ruth, and I am good. I don't. The problem here, Ruth, is that Tim Walz does not come off at all ever masculine. Coach doesn't come off
But this
masculine.
tells you where these women are
Yes.
and what they're telling themselves about this, because she writes, after the cartoon super villainy of Donald Trump and the smarmy misogyny of J.D. Vance, the positive masculinity of Walz and his ilk is a joyful relief. And these programs are often doing good work, but when it comes to truly shifting cultural norms for the next generation of boys and allowing them to embrace their full humanity without shame, we might do better to ditch the masculinity rhetoric altogether. Because rather than challenging the old
What's
stereotypes...
Ruth's last name again?
Whipman. Whippman.
Whippman.
Yep. We want to keep men strong and just remove the aspects of strength that get us in trouble. It would be hard to imagine a program aimed at busting stereotypes for girls that branded itself aspirational femininity and told girls they could be scientists or chief executives or rugby players or presidents and still be feminine and attractive. Of course you still want to be feminine and attractive. Of course men still want to be manly. Like, I don't understand.
Right.
There's a lurking sexism. Why do we have to attach the label masculine to a behavior before it can have value to men?
Just stop trying to figure this out, ladies. Just stop.
Yeah. I don't know how you get over this. If that's where you are, that you think the problem with Tim Walz is that he's having to perform masculinity too much, so people have to take him seriously.
Ruth Whipman, how rigid gender stereotypes hurt girls and boys.
But I mean, think about it. There's plenty of presidential candidates and vice presidential candidates and everything else who are, who are way more manly than Tim Walz, who aren't like loading everything with hunting and sports metaphors. Think like Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is more manly than Tim Walz, but he doesn't parade around in camo and try and like call himself coach everywhere he goes and all this stuff. Like, and Tim Walz does it. So
do with mac and cheese when this is done.
He's still trying to do this like folksy thing too.
Right.
If you notice, he did this on The View where he's pretending he doesn't know what venture capitalists are.
Well, right.
And like saying that like, oh, well, J.D. Vance and Donald Trump keep taking jobs out with their venture capital companies. And like, does he know?
No.
Like any... But I mean, it's bizarre behavior, and I think like he thinks that's performing masculinity. Like when he tries to use the excuse for lying, oh, sometimes I'm not so good with my words.
Well, and I also think that this comes.
Oh, I'm such a knucklehead. Like
this comes from the, I'm showing you that not only am I a man, but I'm a blue collar guy.
Yeah.
Also feeds into his masculinity. I'm like just any other union guy who sees these venture capitalists coming in.
But it is such a fake, and I think it's really interesting in light of what Donald Trump just did at McDonald's, because truly the left looks down on people who do like regular Joe jobs, and that's why Tim Walz's performance art piece of acting like one of them is so unconvincing, inauthentic, and terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Trump just goes to be Trump. He's interested in it. He's having a great time. He's not like trying to do some performance. He's not like pretending he's actually a fry cook. And like, I think it's interesting because it gets at what makes this whole McDonald's thing so emotional to people. It's really funny because it's actually like kind of a typical political photo op.
Yeah, it totally is.
It's sort of a normal one. And something about it has people who like Trump and people who dislike Trump like really emotional about it.
Yes.
It's very upsetting. I saw one post where somebody said that by closing the McDonald's, he was depriving the local people of a food source.
Of course. Of course.
Like, I mean, I think he was handing out food. But, you know, and people are like, it was staged. It was a photo op. This is the cruelest thing. He's making fun of blue-collar people. He literally was not making fun of blue-collar people at all.
Of course not.
What Tim Walz does makes fun of blue-collar people way more because he's trying to pretend that he's one. And, like, when
I'm just a stupid white idiot.
Well, right. And I think it's fascinating because, so I happened upon, this is like an unrelated Twitter beef that happened today, but I think it's like really exemplary because, like sometimes people on the left actually like do say what they think. And this dude, are you familiar with the Twitter account Handy Ginger Gal?
No.
She's this woman. She has red hair, obviously, and she's handy. And she lives.
She's ginger.
What?
No, because she's ginger.
She's a handy ginger gal.
Well, yeah, but she has red hair.
Yeah. And
because she's ginger, not because she's handy.
Yeah. No. But she's also handy. She does like construction projects. She has a homestead in Costa Rica that she like does projects on and stuff. Anyway, she's great. She's an awesome Twitter follow. I love her. She's posted extensively about her projects. And she tweeted, I always took on every chance I could to involve our children in learning hands-on. As a result, my 23-year-old daughter is legitimately my equal on any building project. Teach your kids to be useful. And this dude who describes himself as a liberal Democrat in his Twitter account, he says, you want your children to be useful and yet you teach them menial labor? That seems contradictory.
Wow.
And then she said... She posted, there's no such thing. She said this about the Trump McDonald's thing earlier, but she reposted it. There's no such thing as a lousy job, only lousy men who don't care to do it. A quote from Ellis Wyatt. And she said, people who can do, people who can't criticize. And this dude, this guy, this tattooed, pierced, atheist Twitter dude goes, I'm not ashamed to admit I can't and won't do menial labor. I'm better than that. I believe you and your children are better than that as well. Too bad you don't believe the same. And that's like how...
It's honest.
That's how they really feel.
Yo, totally.
And like, it's very telling because she posted this and it's so true. Like Trump doesn't think he's better than anybody. There's no such thing as a bad job. And one of the other criticisms that I saw about Trump is like, oh, he wants to take away these workers' rights and he wants them to have lower wages and take away their right to organize and all this stuff. Like, they actually view low-wage workers as like less than, which is why they feel the need to try to legislate every low-wage job into the same type of white-collar top class jobs they do, which they think are better, and they think all low-wage workers should also have jobs like that, which is why they try magically through wages to turn those jobs into middle-class jobs.
Right.
But they're not. They're something else, and they're for a different purpose. And by the way, cooking is like one of the great jobs. You should check out our food podcast, the All You Can Eat podcast, because one of the things we talked about on our last episode was these sort of old school family run restaurants going away. And like, what a sort of amazing and beautiful thing that is to like want to have as your family business, like feeding people and inviting people in and making them rich, beautiful meals and all this stuff. And the same with building things. What could possibly be more meaningful and useful to society than being able to build yourself a house?
Totally agree.
Being able to put together a stone wall on your property. Being able to grow food. Not that people aren't going to be subsistence farmers anymore. It's not the world we live in. But you should have an understanding. And there's a reason why people in like Silicon Valley all send their kids to like Montessori schools where their kids learn by doing. They're extremely focused on doing things like stirring, like learning to cook, like building things, making things, hands-on. They're very, very focused on these sorts of skills. And there's something so midwit about saying that it's beneath you to do menial labor when our minds and our bodies are connected, and being able to do things, build things, make food for other people. Like, these are some of the great joys in life that give life meaning.
Oh,
right?
Totally.
And people with intellectual curiosity enjoy every job they have.
Well,
There
yes.
is no such thing as a lousy job. People with intellectual curiosity and interest in stuff don't feel they're better than any job. And you could feel it coming off Trump. He did not think he was better than being in the McDonald's drive-thru. He was thrilled to be there.
Well, I completely agree. And I think that, like, even somebody like um, uh, Mark Cuban probably would similarly be interested to
Right.
see the process. He likes processes and businesses
Mhm.
and efficiencies, and you'd be interested to see how that works. And my dad was a big fan of people who had jobs that they liked. Like, my dad was friends with all the bellmen at the hotel that we had,
Mhm.
and wanted to know, like, all the idiosyncrasies. Like, how do they
course.
choose? How do they stack? How do they decide what goes in the car? How do they do? Who decides what gets what?
Mhm.
What's the spiel you say to a guest? He was truly interested in this stuff, and of
Mhm.
course, he was interested in my world because I was a concierge, and he saw me essentially, charming people and making their trip sound before I got burnt out, and I had suicide eyes the whole time. But and those are, by the way, skills. When I got into radio, the sales department begged
Mhm.
me to speak to the sales team about guest services, hospitality
Right.
industry. I said no because I was like, I was doing something.
Mhm.
But
But an astonishing number of American workers have worked at McDonald's, right? I think McDonald's
Mhm.
claims like 1 in 8 Americans has worked at a McDonald's. Um, and a lot of people who haven't worked at McDonald's have had jobs that are like that in some
Mhm.
capacity somewhere else. And I think what's so disrespectful is this implication, and you see it when you see people say, like, and Matt Walsh was tweeting at people about this who were saying, like, Trump hates these workers, he doesn't want them to have better wages, all this stuff. And Matt Walsh said, well, like, if you work for decades at a McDonald's making minimum wage and never get promoted, never get a raise, never learn how to do anything or get a better job or anything else, like, that's on you at some point. But that's what leftists think. People like that in their minds, that's all they're capable of, right?
Mhm.
They think that the people working at McDonald's have no prospects and can never move forward and can never grow. Whereas in actuality, many franchise owners started off working at a McDonald's. Home
Right,
Depot,
but they
for
find
example,
that.
prides itself on having a number of executives who
Mhm.
started off on the sales floor as
But
cashiers
they
or other
find
things.
that gauche. They find origin stories grody, disgusting.
Yeah, they hate that.
Yeah, they hate that absolutely. In the same way, like
They would much rather pay you a quote living wage
Right.
to stay stagnant
they think
forever.
that that the professional class, you should get there by going to a good, expensive college,
Mhm.
and then you get entry into the professional class, and you're better than people who are starting
It's
from
like
the
the
ground.
white dudes from Harris guys saying, like, part of the problem is we
Right.
need to make education more
Right.
accessible to these young men.
Well, exactly. In the people
so they can be more like us.
Well, right, but not always. Like at the hotel, there are people who started at the hotel doing a back of the house job or doing like work, getting in at the front desk of a hotel, and then you get in their management track if you're interested.
Yeah.
And then you become the assistant director of housekeeping, and then this and that and that. And these are all ascension points to general manager, and they
Yeah.
make good money.
But generally, it's usually people who are interested in and care about the job and doing it well and
Right.
learning about it and
Right.
being a part of a team that's doing something, not people who sit around complaining about how they're not making a living wage or they need a union.
Or yes, I completely agree.
Like, that's not.
But isn't another part of this, by the way, just the part of the class aspect of this
Mhm.
is that so for instance, let me use remember COVID up here and the schools and the masking and all that, and so there was one a public speaking set part of the board of ed, whatever, board of health,
Yeah.
whatever it was, and you had a bunch of people who wanted the masks off, whatever, and then you had a bunch of people who had T-shirts made, who were very credentialed, who wanted the masks to remain on.
Mhm.
And my feeling was the reason they had T-shirts made and wanted to differentiate themselves was they wanted to make a clear disembarkation from us with these shirts all have credentials, and those people there don't. So it's not really fair that we all have the same voice here,
Right.
that we all get our 3 minutes to do this. Just so you know, we're here. We're a little more important in this country than those people are over there. That guy's a general contractor. What does he know about masks? Of course, he knows a lot about masks. You know,
I'm sorry that you think your children should know how to do menial labor.
No, it's absolutely
like no, doing menial labor is actually good.
Yes, yeah, no.
Like you learn a lot from doing menial labor, including how to not have to do as much of it if you make attempts. But you also should know, and like always, as a manager and a boss, my feeling is that you should know how to do at least the basics of what everybody who works under you does. You should understand what their job is.
It's ideally, yeah. I've been given manager jobs, fortunately, I guess, because people were doing me favors where I was not qualified. And, you know, and then you work on trying to quell resentment. Whether it works or not, who knows. But
PMO JMO says they worked at Burger King. In
that'll
the chat.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever worked at I delivered pizzas, but not in a
You've
chain.
never worked, like, made food in a restaurant?
Not really. No. I mean, I've done busing. I was a bus boy at Holiday Inn, so a little bit. Yeah, I was never paid to make food, I don't think, or in a restaurant. I mean, I made sandwiches at White Hen, so maybe that counts. Oh, there you go, a White Hen Pantries. Yeah. That was good because White Hen Pantry used to have, it's like a 7-Eleven, but they also made food. And, oh, man, you learn a lot, too, about turning salads because they've turned brown at the top. So just mixing them back up. Because we didn't throw out anything. Oh, my God. Amazing. Sorry for anybody who was
poisoned to death by your salads.
Right. But here's, by the way, about your masculinity. This is your lady, Samson,
Whipman, Ruth Whipman.
Yes. This is from Boy Mom. By the way, I can imagine having this lady as a mother. We have tended to frame smash the patriarchy as a punitive measure, a loss for men and boys, rather than a gain. But really, they only stand to benefit from throwing off these debilitating norms and pressures. This is not about losing power, but about gaining freedom and connection, an opportunity to become more fully human. This is a hopeful project for all genders.
Oh.
And we should sell it as such. In other words, hopefully there's a dad around to do dad stuff because she's not going to do it.
Right.
She's going to affirm him and tell him. There's no pressure, by the way. There's no pressure to play cowboys and Indians. There's no pressure, just so you know, there's no pressure to play football or anything.
By the way, they've been feminizing the boys for decades now.
Right.
And the mental health crisis is worse than ever. So maybe it's not what they think it is.
Yeah. No. But like this whole idea, like you need to do guidance stuff.
Right.
You need to. This whole
well,
thing
and boys particularly need outlets for physicality. They need outlets for, I mean, I know saying spaces is corny, but they need spaces where there aren't girls. Just like women need spaces where there aren't men, by the way. But like boys need spaces where there aren't girls around too, where they can be themselves without that happening. You know, and this, to take like what boys naturally are and imply that there's like something bad and toxic and terrible about it, and that you need to train it out of them, or that there's something shameful or whatever, like that feeling, like that contributes greatly to that culture of shame and mental health crisis in boys.
Absolutely.
Because they grow up thinking that there's something wrong with them for like what they're naturally like. And so like, of course that has to contribute, you know, and like I say, they've been doing this like project on boys where they try and get them to not act like boys and try and get them to act more like girls. And they continue to drop out of school at higher rates, like be depressed more, commit suicide more. Like when I was in high school, the stats already were that boys committed suicide more than girls did. And like,
I mean, that is a nightmare. That is a nightmare that's something that's going on.
And like, and then they turn around and they're like, well, it must be because they're so used to being in a position of power and that's been taken away from them now. Like, nobody's teenage son was like oppressing slaves in the 1800s. So, I mean, like, what do you want people to do? This is, they're projecting all this weird imagined stuff onto boys because they have their own mental problems with men and white men in particular, right? And then they turn around and they're like, why don't they like us? Well, like, maybe it's because, you know, you've taken the normal stuff of like teenage boys running around and stealing political signs in the town and trashing them or throwing them down a hill or whatever, and you've pathologized it into some kind of rising white hate in town or something that you've made up and said these kids' parents must be big Trump supporters or something. Like, they're projecting all their weird fantasies onto boys who haven't done anything to anybody yet. You know what I mean? They're just trying to like figure out who the heck they are, and they have no normal role models.
I don't want you to be like the men who hurt me.
Well, yeah, it's like weird. They're projecting. Don't be like Christopher Columbus or Cortez or any of these evil white men. Like, I'm sorry, your son is 6. He hasn't done anything to anybody. Like, why do they put all this on kids? It's so insane. But it goes back to what we talked about of like, all these people have like therapy speak to themselves into like being perpetual children that somehow like need to work out their issues by giving it to their children to have to deal with.
Well, that's totally it. That's totally it. You're recruiting a partner in your pain, and it's absolutely cruel. It's absolutely cruel, and it's not something that.
It's like your friend there who had the kid with the MAGA hat come over and was like, "Oh my God, what do I?" You're an adult. It's a kid wearing a hat.
Right.
Like, who's exactly in the position of power here? Is it the adult who flies off the handle at a child and like demands some kind of like explanation for him for his behavior? Like,
you're gonna wear a hat like that, you better know more about the candidate. Really? Can't he just wear the hat?
I know, he's a child wearing a hat. You're a grown-up. Are you serious right now? Like, stop taking your mental health issues out on children. But I don't know. The entire left needs some kind of do you think it's going to get better if Trump wins, by the way?
I think it'll bottom out, but I think it'll bottom out eventually because you can't get it any worse. I mean, how bad is it going to get? So, like, what do they don't you I actually want to ask progressives, like, do you ever get sick of just being freaking hysterical? You ever get sick?
I mean, I did know somebody that her mom, like, when Trump was elected in 2016, was, like, really, really, like, had to see a therapist and, like, had all kinds of anxiety about it and stuff. And eventually she did decide that she needed to, like, pull back a little bit from following politics so much because it wasn't mentally good for her and it was, like, stressing her out a lot. And somehow her therapist managed to convince her to, like, take a step back. But yeah, like, I would think that caring about it so much in that way, where you're like projecting your climate change anxiety onto children and stuff, is like, I mean, you must get tired of feeling like that.
I would think so too, but who knows? Once again,
I mean, we were never, like, we had Bush v. Gore happen and nobody offered us therapy dogs at my school. And we were very liberal, but that was,
yeah.
But I mean, even that, we would have found that laughable when I was in high school and people were very liberal.
Yeah, that did break some people. There's no doubt about that. It did.
I mean, yeah, people had like crazy bumper stickers and stuff, but I don't think they like, well, I don't think they like took it so personally.
Well, right, because Gore was never ahead. Well, so it was just Bush was always ahead, and then they gave Bush the victory. And then Gore challenged it. There was no time was like, Gore won. No, he didn't.
Yeah, I feel like it started to happen with Bush. Like, then in, you know, with the, like, war on terror stuff and things. And they started to, like, get really like things just started to like not comport with reality.
Well, yeah, and I also
like my
think,
friend telling me she was afraid Bush was going to not give up power and leave the White House after Obama won. And they're like, I think he's going to declare an emergency and try and hang on to power. And I was like, really? Like, are you living in reality with the rest of us?
I also think Bush broke the boomers, and they're his contemporaries. They're around his age.
That makes sense.
And they saw it as a special violation that this guy would be acting like that. And the fact that he was so inarticulate, so they could hate him for that as well. And then they could create a monster out of Cheney. Which brings us to, as a matter of fact, Kamala Harris was with Liz Cheney today. They're touring the country. Kamala Harris was asked why she thinks some Republicans are voting for her by the host.
So, I have in my career now, whether it was as the elected district attorney, elected attorney general, and then elected United States senator, and of course now vice president, I've counted that I have taken the oath of office 6 times. And for the elected leaders here, we know it is an oath.
She is starting her answer to why are some Republicans voting for you halfway across the globe. She could.
I grew up in a middle-class family.
You don't think that that's on the table?
That one must take sincerely and unequivocally, which is an oath, among other things, to support.
These are just words. And I don't want to call it a word salad because it's like salad's got benefits. This is just stringing along words in transitional phrases. Mm-hmm. She does this for 2.5 minutes, and you will still not know why she thinks some Republicans are voting for her.
Constitution of the United States. And to understand what those principles represent and what they require of the individual who holds the office in the public trust. And let's not
This is not like it's the Dalai Lama and you think that, okay, there's something undergirding all this. I mean, this is a guy who really is wise beyond his years. This is... this person is talentless. She's literally... Like, there's nothing happening there. I don't get it. I mean, she might be the worst ever politician there ever was. Did you see that
she's introduced a bill to combat price gauging today?
Oh, did she? She also mispronounced usher.
Oh.
Value that point.
And then she said, see, I gotcha. She called him Ursher or something.
It is not about the individual. It is not about what is in their personal interest. It is about what is for and in the spirit of the public good.
Liz Cheney is about to throw up.
She's like, why?
Liz Cheney could answer this question. She should just raise her hand and say, do you want me to answer the question here? She does this for 2.5 minutes. Here's 1:46 in.
In the public trust. And I think that this moment, with the choice that the American people have in this election in 2 weeks and 1 day.
Also, something we didn't need to know. 2 weeks and 1 day. We didn't. She always does that. That's a tool of hers. I'll go 2 minutes and 11 seconds in.
Bringing us as Americans together, who are understanding that we cannot, with such fundamental stakes being presented, afford to be mired in ideological differences without really staking our claim to the most fundamental ideals upon which our country stands.
And
thank you.
That's it. It really wasn't a hard question. Why are Republicans voting for you? A lot of them were worried about January 6th and Donald Trump. They don't trust Donald Trump with the abortion issue. Bang! Next question.
Yeah. I mean, what's... There shouldn't be something hard about that question.
Who's telling her? It's gotta be Doug is telling her that she's really talented at this. And he started telling her because he wanted to have sex with her 15 years ago. And now he's got to kind of keep it going. So now she thinks she has this talent. Because... But maybe he does that so that he has to keep kissing her ass so that he can make it past it to the secretary. I don't know. Who's telling her this? She's the worst at this than anybody has ever been at everything ever on earth.
I mean, well, part of it is she doesn't have any other tools at her disposal other than answering questions in this way. And so everyone's kind of stuck with her now at this point. So they're just hoping I mean, like, I think the hope was that they could avoid doing interviews and she would just surge to victory because she was
Right.
new, and it would be like a short enough time that they could hide her for long enough. I really think
And
they
that
thought
went
that.
sideways, yes.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how they plan to win an election with her because she's worse at it all the time. I mean,
Yes.
did you see the one it might even be from the same event from the New Way Forward thing? That's the one where she's with Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Where that I sent it to us, where it says that she laughs about him going to jail, that the courts are going to put him in jail. I sent it to. I'll send it again.
Oh, I did. I remember that she said that. Yeah.
But yeah, like, she just doesn't have a good answer for.
Because some people find it humorous what he says, and think it's just silly, but understand how brutally serious it is. Well, the courts will take care of that. We'll take care of November. Yes. We'll take care of November.
It's actually, it doesn't bother me that much. She actually addressed a comment, said,
lock him up.
Right. And actually had a timely, sensible response, which is that the courts will take care of that. We'll take care of November, which is actually, like, oddly focused.
Well, sort of. I mean, I think the laughing about it is what gets people because,
Sure.
I mean, she goes on about how dangerous he is and he's going to lock up political opponents and his humor is not funny. And then for her to immediately go to, yep, the courts will lock him up. Ha 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 ha. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but that's funny. Okay, Kamala. Like,
should we,
I think we should jump to
hold on. Here's Kamala here.
My pastor who was here, Reverend Dr. Amos C. Brown. This church in San Francisco.
Uh-oh. Come on back.
I thank you. And of course,
Do that again.
And of course, Usher.
I think that's like a thing.
Got you.
Got you? Is that a thing? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Okay, we doing the chat?
We should jump to the chat because then I do have to go pick up our daughter.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry about that.
Not this second, but yeah, we have time to do the chat, but we should probably get there.
Okay, here we go.
Listening to the names that the Harris campaign puts up as their versions of quote-unquote men, Mayor Pete, Gay Tim, and Slappy, was like hearing
Slappy.
the cast of La Cage aux Folles being read. That is just weak sauce.
Yes.
Weak. Unbelievable.
Yeah, a Slappy. I like that very much. We're going to have to use Slappy now for Doug.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Really enjoyed the discussion about, white pussies for Harris. And, they've got the straight white male problem. But the thing that I don't think they recognize, the appeal of Donald Trump, at least always for me, has been he is for us. And by us, I don't mean straight white males. I mean us, anybody who's a proud American.
Mm-hmm.
And also by us, I mean any naturalized citizen who's a proud American.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And people with green cards trying to become Americans legally. He's for all of us. And she is not. And, you guys, I said I was traveling. I was actually in the Dominican Republic for my first wedding anniversary with the beautiful Mrs. Steve.
Oh, cool.
And it was also our wedding anniversary is the same day we met 16 years ago. So
Fantastic.
I did it too.
That's great.
So. But, Sue has a lot of family over there, and we were hanging out with one of her cousins. And long story short, this cousin has a daughter who's married to a brilliant trauma surgeon in Texas, and the daughter's a physician as well. And they're both becoming naturalized U.S. citizens. And this girl is afraid that when Donald Trump becomes elected, he's going to pull their green cards and force them to go home. And I just was like, that is the biggest crock of bullshit
Yes.
I had ever heard in
Yeah.
my life. Where are you getting this information from?
Yeah.
It's so stupid. You know, he's for you guys. You're bringing value to the country.
Yes,
You're going
absolutely.
to start a family. You're going to do all this other stuff. It's just sometimes it's disheartening. But that is the appeal to Trump. He wants us to win.
Yes.
We don't even know what she wants, but I don't think winning is part of her vocabulary.
No.
Anyway, thank
She
you.
certainly doesn't want to do the work of being the president of the United States.
No.
She wouldn't mind being famous and getting invited on lots of TV shows to talk
and she
about
likes
how
the
great
plane.
she is, and she
Yeah.
likes people thinking she's smart and that stuff. But like the day-to-day, like briefings,
Yeah.
and she doesn't want to do that stuff.
No.
Habibis,
Hey.
Hey, Leslie.
I don't love the victory laps that people seem to be taking now on the heels of the polling trends
Yeah.
and Kamala's recent failures and Trump's recent successes. I think people still need to keep their eye on the ball. I know that, in 2020, I was feeling comfortable despite the polls. In 2022, I was feeling very comfortable about the red wave that
Same.
didn't exactly materialize. And I really, really am scared and distressed that people are just loving the relief and the joy we're having about putting it to them, putting it to the
Yes.
Democrats and snarking on them. And we have a long way to go. And crowds mean nothing to me. In 2020, Trump had these crowds, and Biden had 14 people in a room
True.
separated by social distancing circles. But Biden, quote unquote, won that election. So I just think people need to keep their eyes on the prize, need to work to get out the vote, need to themselves vote, even in the deep red and deep blue states where
Yes.
it's not supposed to matter, because I argue that the first line of attack from the left, if God willing Trump wins, is going to be about the popular vote. And I would like actually you guys to talk about the risk regarding the popular vote and the risk of everybody sitting back on their laurels because we got a couple of scalps in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you.
I mean, I agree. Like, the election is not done. People should not stay home thinking Trump is going to win. And I want him to win the popular vote. I think he needs that mandate, actually. I think it's within reach for him. It's the only time he's polled anywhere close to having the popular vote. Joe Biden always had a big lead. I don't know that there were like any polls even getting close to the election that had Trump in the lead
No.
ever in 2020.
No, there were not.
And in 2022, the polls were off, but not as much as people like to say that they were. Like, I mean, they did show, and I didn't think the polls were right in 2022 because I thought there was going to be a red wave because I couldn't believe that people would vote for some of these people that the Democrats put up.
Yeah.
Like Fetterman and stuff. Like, I just could not believe that this was happening. And
but
the polls were off, and the polls were off.
But also abortion was on the
Yeah, the
ballot.
abortion thing was big, but the abortion thing is, I mean, Trump represents that issue to them. Although Trump's probably a better person to be there on the abortion issue than a lot of other Republicans because he actually likes abortion, I think.
He just, you know what? He just doesn't want to be bothered by it.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want to deal with this issue.
You take care of that. We'll do it. The DNR or DNI, whatever it is. You get $100,000. Just get lost. That's his whole deal, I think.
As promised, the first Steve from Merrimack chat review. I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of the message, but what I really want to focus on with Steve is his opening. I feel like he should either do an expanded opening or no opening at all. What I think he shouldn't do is be like Pussy Paul in the car who wants to be a part of something, that doesn't want to be a part of something, and then wants to do it, doesn't want to do it, and then before you know it, throws a little jab at you at the end, and is probably so proud of himself when he did that, like tugging on his sweater vest and having a sip of his soy miso latte with oat milk, and he just felt so good about himself. But let's not worry about Pussy Paul in the car right now.
What did
If I was
Paul do?
Steve
I'm
Merrimack,
confused.
I wouldn't introduce himself anymore. because we already know his annoying voice. But if he wanted to stay with the opening, I think he should do a Kamala and really expand it. Hi, Steve from Merrimack. My pronouns are he, him, she, her, they, them. Whatever he's feeling, because I know he's a cross-dresser behind the scenes.
Is that true?
I don't know that I get that vibe from him.
am in the car, and I think that's always valuable because Tom wants to know what people leave messages.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a clown suit with a red nose. So I think he should go all in, really expand it, or just not introduce himself anymore and just give us his annoying voice. But no matter what, he shouldn't be Pussy Paul in the car. Thank you.
Wow, what did Paul ever do to anybody? And I don't think Steve's voice is annoying. I like it. I like to hear it. Man, vicious, Alice. Vicious.
I like and appreciate everyone who leaves us messages.
The podcast turning a bit blue on a Sunday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Not what I expected, but what I greatly appreciated at the same time.
Well, that was you, Alice. That was in the that's going to be in the TikTok tomorrow when you worked blue.
And I'd just like to say, to be additionally crass, I hope for my friend Tom that it's not the first time that Alice has had a wasp in her mouth.
Oh, excellent, Tim. Excellent. Alice, care to comment? Alice?
I'm not going to comment on that.
I think
I don't...
Wow. Tim, well done. Well done. Is it the first time that you've had an insect in your mouth? Probably not.
Yes, it's the first time I've had an
Well, I'm not
insect.
saying that you were eating
I don't
them.
eat insects.
I know. I'm not suggesting you're eating them like a frog or anything, but I'm just saying, has it ever happened before?
No.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Okay,
By the way, you've killed animals around here for less. That thing was in your mouth, and you just let it crawl around on the ground after
I'm trying to be a better person. He wasn't bugging me then.
When you were playing the sound cuts from the Bill Maher show,
Yes.
You were playing good Bill Maher.
Yes,
Bill
yes.
Maher that all of us like. The Bill Maher who, calls it like it is on his own side.
Yep.
In a lot of ways. But I was hoping you were going to play the bad Bill Maher, who, for some reason, after the Bret Baier Kamala Harris interview, went after Bret Baier, saying he was, rude and an asshole and, whatever to Kamala Harris. Bill, come back to us. She showed up 15 minutes late.
He's still one sec, Steve. I don't want to interrupt too much, but he's still, at the end of the day, a big liberal who wants Kamala to win, and he's emotional.
Yeah.
That Bret Baier hurt her chances of winning by making her answer questions.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And he had a big bitch fest yesterday. Him and Mark Cuban and Hogg, and I had that ready if we needed it. But the show was running long, and it was actually it would obscure the point because the point was the masculinity thing. But no, he always at least twice a show goes on rants that stuff that's just ridiculous. Trump's not going to leave. Yeah, all this bitchy stuff. And no, I just like good Bill Maher. But if there's a request to bring the bad stuff too, we can do that too. But he is a big liberal, like Alice said, so we expect
He wants Kamala Harris to win the election.
Yes.
Bill, come back to us. She showed up 15 minutes late.
Mm-hmm.
And she had no intention of answering any questions. She just wanted to filibuster. And Bret Baier has consumed enough Kamala Harris BS to know where it was going to go. So he's just trying to refocus her. And, honestly, if Kamala Harris had been a man, would Bill Maher have mentioned that? I don't think he would. I think he would have expected that, a combative interview. But, it's this is when, I cringe with Bill Maher. Because he's got to do his Democrat thing. He's got to say that.
Yeah.
But I think Bret Baier did a fantastic job of trying to focus this idiot. Anyway,
same here.
Thank you.
And people have analyzed it, and Bret Baier, when he interviewed Trump a while back, he did interrupt Trump even more than he interrupted Kamala.
Well, right. But that said, Steve, I've got to say, Alec Baldwin played Bret Baier on SNL, And he's awesome. Alec Baldwin's a funny son of a bitch. I'm
Good
sorry.
evening, I'm Brett Baer, and to clear the air, yes, I do look like someone made a businessman in Minecraft. Tonight I am speaking to Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's welcome her now to Fox News.
Well, thank you,
Pleasure
Brett.
to have you here with us.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah.
The pleasure is neither of ours.
Well, thank you, Madam Vice President. Now, when I interviewed President Trump, my first question was, what do you think is the most important issue facing our nation? So my first question for you is, give me the exact number of murderers you let loose in this country.
Well, Brett, I'm glad you brought up the topic of immigration.
1 million, 2 million?
Okay. The first thing we did in office was to introduce a bill.
10 million? Give me a number.
Brett, we came up with a bipartisan
But
bill.
didn't have a number, though.
May I please finish?
I'm asking you to.
Well, then you have to listen.
Well, I can't because I'm talking.
Well, well when will you stop?
And maybe when I go to bed?
Brett, look. I am the only candidate who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations. I brought down the Sinaloa cartel. I brought down the Guadalajara cartel. If I was in Breaking Bad, it would have ended in 3 episodes.
Madam Vice President, are you here to answer questions or just looking for a viral moment?
Oh, please, I am not looking for a viral moment. See how I don't let...
There you go. Anyway, that's the gist of the whole thing there. But it was he's fantastic. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We are wrapping up the child who just walked into the room. Let's excited about that. You may have noticed we were talking to people in the live chat. If you want to join, we do every show live for our Patreon subscribers. If you go there, you can sign up patreon.com/burnbarrel. There's also some extra content each week, and you can listen to the regular podcast feeds ad-free. You can also just listen for free if you go to burnbarrelpodcast.com.
Whoa.